Please take the stand, Miss Sykes. Thank you for letting me do this, Prosecutor Edgeworth. And thank you, Mr. Wright, and Prosecutor Blackwell, for letting the truth be known. Now we can finally move forward, and everyone's suffering can come to an end. Now, the interesting part would be if they, triple rused us. It looks like she really did it. But then it turns out, it was really Aura. But then it turns out it actually was Athena the whole time. That what I would approve of. Athena. Prosecutor Blackwell will be cleared, and the dark age of the law can come to an end. Yes, admit your guilt and bring everything to its conclusion. I killed my mother. My memory is still a little hazy. How many times has that line been spoken? Can we get a count? Are there enough numbers in the universe to count the number of times that this line appears in Phoenix Wright games? My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep. And I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the handle onto my fingers. Your Honor, please, find me guilty. I dare say, these are all memories that no one but the murderer would have. I see. Thank you for your confession. I believe this trial has gone on long enough. But before we conclude, does anyone have a counter-argument?
Objection!
I do, Your Honor. Mr. Wright? But Mr. Wright, why? I killed her. I remember it now. Any counter-argument now is pointless.
Objection!
Don't tell me you've forgotten one of the basic tenets of lawyering. Always believe in the client to the bitter end. Athena, you are not a murderer. I refuse to believe...
Objection!
Always believe in your client. I refuse to believe that you are a murderer. I said that you never change, but could you have actually regressed in these 8 years? I won't stand for your childish emotionalism getting in the way of the truth. Emotionalism? Don't lecture me on matters of the heart, Edgeworth. Because I can see straight into a person's soul. We're flashing back again. Okay. I don't need to reread this. Alright. Okay. There's still a chance. Somewhere deep in Athena's heart, there might still be a memory that not even she knows about yet. It might be like looking for a grain of sand somewhere in the cosmos, but still, that memory might contain a new fact that could prove her innocence. I hope for everyone's sake that you are not just bluffing, Mr. Wright. Now then, is there or is there not a problem with Miss Sykes' confession? My memory is still a little hazy, but there's no question I remember it. I remember the weight of the weapon in my hands, and the feeling of it stabbing in deep, and I remember the warmth of her blood as it flowed down the hand. Okay, there's definitely something wrong with her memory of the offense. Oh, there's no blood on the handle of the weapon.
Take that!
Isn't that the katana the defendant used to kill the victim, Mr. Wright? I respectfully and vehemently disagree, Your Honor. But I remember it. I remember holding the weapon and getting blood on my fingers. That's exactly my point. If blood really did get on your fingers while you were holding it, there should be blood on the handle. But please focus on the handle of this sword. There's not a trace of blood on it. And therefore, this is clearly a contradiction of the facts. You're right. Oh my!
Objection!
The defendant must have simply confused a portion of her memories. She mentioned it was hazy to begin with, and we can't mull over every minor detail.
Objection!
But she also said there's no question I remember it, a fact we can't ignore. In that case, why don't you explain what this contradiction with her memories means? Gladly. Give me a sec to think of something. I want to say that Athena didn't stab anyone, but she said it herself that she remembers the feeling of committing the act. Think, Phoenix, think. What could the contradiction with Athena's memories mean? Miss Sykes said blood flowed down the handle, but the katana's handle is spotless, so doesn't it follow that the defendant must have used a weapon other than the katana? What are you up to this time? This is it. This time I've found just the thing to end Athena's nightmare for good. She'll never have to be afraid of earthquakes again. The weapon that took Dr. Sykes' life was the katana. That much is for sure. Is it? So if I can show a possibility that Athena didn't use the katana, it could help me prove her innocent. A different weapon, you say? What weapon would that be exactly? This proves Blackwell innocent because he's a giant weeb that wouldn't use inferior Western swords. It actually wasn't even his sword, though. It was just the sword that was hanging out in the lab. He doesn't even own a samurai sword. He's a fake weeb. I can see you're floundering, Mr. Wright. Did you speak without thinking again, as always? How does he do that? But I can't back down. Not here, not now. That's right, I did, because it's so obvious that it doesn't require any thought. What did you say? Okay, so maybe that was an exaggeration, but there has to be something. Was there some other bladed weapon in the robotics lab that day? Maybe there's something in one of the crime scene photos. Wait a minute, there is something. There's a high probability that that was in the lab. I don't have that particular weapon here in evidence right now, but I do have a piece of evidence just like it. That's why we're hanging on to this. It's from the utility tools.
Take that!
But that's the murder weapon in the Clay Tarrant case. Yes, this is the knife that took Mr. Tarrant's life. Oh, Savine! Yes, this is, due to some contrivances, Edgeworth is back and he is arguing against us. I would like to say that this is like the climax of the trial, but I don't think it is. I think we still have a ways to go. This is the knife that took Mr. Tarrant's life. But there must have been a knife just like this at the scene 7 years ago as well. Toolkits containing utility knives like this one are issued to Space Center employees. And a robotics lab, especially, would naturally have one of these around.
Objection!
But besides the katana, no other bladed weapon was found at the site. It was in the investigation report, if you didn't know.
Objection!
Of course I knew that, once you told me just now. Then here's something else you already knew. There was a toolkit at the scene, but it didn't contain any blades. Here is a photo of its contents. Oh, are we gonna have to... Are we gonna have to unscramble these? Fine, but isn't there something odd about the design on these handles? Therefore, there was no other bladed weapon in the room.
Objection!
I disagree. This toolkit contained a knife. And what proof do you have of that? Don't tell me your eye for art is failing you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You are the last person in the world who should be criticizing my aesthetic sense. No, he's simply watching out for your ocular health. Please proceed, Mr. Wright. Notice that the handles of each of these tools have a sort of design on them. We really have to do this in order to say, like, there are only 6 out of 7 tools here. Look at how obviously this is one of them. I see that they do, but what significance does that have? It's clear that one of the tools is missing from this kit. If we rearrange the tools into a specific pattern, we might be able to tell which part of the overall design is missing. Is that the theory your pitiful sense of aesthetics helped you come up with? Edgeworth, just let it go, man. Show the court then, if you will. What pattern or design would we see if we were to rearrange the tools? Does this have the logo? Yes. I assume this is the only thing I have that has the logo? Maybe? Is this also? Whoa, I almost hit present. Logo does not appear to be here. Alright, it's the brochure.
Take that!
What design is this supposed to represent? The GYAXA logo, Your Honor. It's on all of the Space Center's documents and pamphlets. As you're aware, GYAXA is the program that operates the Cosmos Space Center. This is a universe where the perp took the murder weapon with him is somehow not the default assumption. Of course. If they did, then we wouldn't be able to find the murder weapon. That would be nonsense. Look at how brightly the GYAXA... Okay, alright, we don't need to flash back to that. We don't need to pass. I think I see it now, but... Yes, with just the tools shown in this photo, the red A part of the logo is missing. And this is where the murder weapon from the Terran case comes into play. If I were to place the utility knife in the open slot... So, it would complete the GYAXA logo. So it would! Then that doesn't change anything. Admit it, Mr. Edgeworth, my aesthetic sense is keener than yours. And while you're at it, admit that the weapon Miss Sykes used could have been this one. Order in the court. Ms. Sykes confessed to having a memory of stabbing the victim. Admittedly, Ms. Sykes most likely did stab someone using the utility knife. However, the weapon used to kill Dr. Sykes was the katana. Therefore, the act of stabbing that Ms. Sykes remembers couldn't be that of Dr. Sykes. Very well. Let's suppose for a minute that Ms. Sykes did use the utility knife. Tell me, how does that change anything? Come again? What if the katana was only being used as a decoy to conceal the true murder weapon? What if the real weapon that took the victim's life was the utility knife? Well then the autopsy doctors are terrible. Don't be ridiculous, or are you changing the premise of your entire argument? Oh, who are we assuming is actually the killer? Nobody yet. We are assuming that Athena... Right now they're on, she stabbed her mother with the utility knife, which didn't kill her. Yeah, they're not even at this point speculating about there being a real killer. But what we're going to find out, I'm sure, is that the person she stabbed was someone else wearing her mother's jacket, which is why there's a tear in the jacket. And then, well, we'll find out. Yeah, it's going to be that somebody else, probably Aura, was in the lab in her mother's jacket. Athena stabbed her, and that's why she has the memory of stabbing someone and having blood run down her fingers. Then her mother showed up, was killed by... Yeah, okay, this is what I think happened. Athena stabbed Aura. Then she went unconscious somehow. Hit in the face, whatever. Then Aura killed her mother with the katana. Left her in the chair. Simon shows up and sees her dead in the chair and Athena covered in blood, trying to fix her by hitting the dismantle button or whatever. Merely offering a hypothetical situation derived from your logic. Ms. Sykes could have put blood on the katana to make it look like the murder weapon, and then concealed the knife on her personage until Blackwell carried her away. That does clear up the contradiction between Ms. Sykes' memories and the evidence. If, in fact, the murder weapon is a utility knife, then fate has dealt you a cruel hand, for you have just proven the knife's existence to us with the rest of us with your own logic. The prosecution is attempting to lead the court.
Objection!
You're the one attempting to lead the court, Mr. Wright, forcing us to forget the facts of this case. Need I remind you that there were only 2 people in the lab at the time of the murder, and that the defendant herself recalled stabbing someone with her own hands? No. It matters not whether the murder weapon was a katana or a utility knife, as long as we know that the victim and the defendant were the only ones there. You cannot escape the fact that it was Athena Sykes who killed her own mother. I don't believe it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Every time I find a contradiction, it vanishes and the suspicion keeps coming back. It's almost as if... Now you're finally starting to get it. The contradictions keep vanishing because the charge is true. And the suspicion keeps coming back to the defendant because that's where it belongs. Phoenix Wright, when will you open your eyes and accept the truth? But I still have full health. Get your head up. I don't want to believe it. It can't be true. But what if? Mr. Wright, you fought a good fight. I think you've done all you can do. Is giving up really the only option? No. Snap out of it, Phoenix. What's the matter with you, giving in to doubt? I can't look back. Forward is the only way to go. No, Your Honor, not yet. It isn't over yet. Right. I can't lose sight of what's important. I believe in Athena, and I'll always believe in her, to the very end. A defense lawyer never gives up on his client. I have to pick myself up and stand firm. Make that brain of yours work, Phoenix. If I don't see a way, I'll just have to go back and look for one. Time to logic dive. I concede the fact that Athena must have stabbed someone with a utility knife. This must have been what Punko witnessed as Athena's hug. But Prosecutor Blackwell didn't see the knife at the scene. That means someone must have removed it from the lab before he arrived. Who could have taken someone else? A third person was at the scene. If I trust in Athena, then I have to conclude there was another person at the scene. But according to Punko's testimony, Athena and her mother were the only 2 there. How did this third person manage to escape Punko's detection? I know. They must have fooled... Yep, by covering... by covering Punko's face. I don't think they covered the... It could be either one of these. They could have been... I really think that they were wearing her jacket. I will say that. Covering their own face. The person hid their face. But wait a minute. Punko has a heartbeat detection system too. Even if they covered their own face, Punko still would have still detected their presence. She wouldn't have been able to tell who they were. Wait, that's it. Covered their face and posed as which person to avoid detection? Posed as Metis. The person posed as the victim. If the culprit posed as the victim, That would explain why Ponko thought only she and Athena were there. All they had to do was take advantage of Ponko's basic recognition features. Use this, her jacket. The culprit could have posed as the victim by wearing her jacket with the ID tag on it. That still leaves the heartbeat detection system. How did the culprit get around that? It wouldn't have worked if Ponko could detect the real Dr. Sykes' heartbeat too. Was the real Dr. Sykes already dead by that time? If that's the case, who did Athena stab? The defendant! Athena stabbed the real culprit. That's it. The person Athena stabbed wasn't Dr. Sykes. It was the person who murdered her and then pretended to be her. The real culprit. So I might have got the order of events wrong. Maybe her mother was already... She didn't come in later. Her mother could have been killed first. Now that Mr. Wright has finally finished thinking, let us bring this to a swift end. Please give us your verdict, Your Honor, so that we may move on to hostage negotiations. You are absolutely right, Prosecutor Edgeworth. I hereby...
Objection!
I didn't say I was finished. I was only pausing for a second, because I realized something so shocking I had to take a break to digest it. But now I know for a fact that Ms. Sykes is innocent. But Ponko saw me. She witnessed the moment of the crime. Yes, Ponko did witness something. She saw the hug. In other words, the moment you used the utility knife. But the person you stabbed wasn't your mother. What are you saying, Mr. Wright? The answer is simple, yet incredibly convoluted, and also kind of repetitive. The person Ms. Sykes stabbed was a third person posing as Dr. Sykes. What?
Objection!
Do you really expect us to swallow that, Mr. Wright? According to the robot's statements, there was no third person there. Did you really think I wouldn't see through your ludicrous grab for time?
Objection!
After all we've been through, including the trial for your murder where you thought that you murdered your own father, Mr. Edgeworth, I'm disappointed. Don't you know by now that this smile of mine means I have absolute confidence? Ha! You make that pose all the time, regardless of the facts. The third person is the culprit. They should just arrest every third person and be done with it. A brilliant plan. We'll call it the golden age of the law. Klonko's strange malfunction. Mr. Taryn, you look pale. Shall I help you to the sick bay? Mr. Taryn? But that's Apollo you're talking to. Oh, this hunk of junk here is mistaking Apollo for Clay. Maybe Apollo was possessed by Clay's ghost. That was another case of mistaken identity caused by a jacket ID tag. All because Klonko couldn't read Apollo's facial features due to that eye patch. Oh, was that why? Because of the eye patch? I don't think we ever established that. Like Mr. Edgeworth said, a mask could nullify the robot's facial recognition. And then... Oh no! Find me guilty. Is it time for my breakdown? Alright. I admit it. I did it. No! No, Serpent. Review the facts. All the person would have to do is wear a jacket with the victim's ID tag to pose as her. Of all the ridiculous theories, what good would a silly disguise like that do? Have you forgotten that the robot also has a heartbeat detection system? If there was a third person at the scene, the robot would have detected them. I'm sorry, Mr. Edgeworth, but that doesn't count for much, I'm afraid. Because by that time, Dr. Sykes' heart had already stopped beating. What? So does that mean? Yes, Your Honor. The person Ms. Sykes stabbed This third person, who was posing as Dr. Sykes, is her mother's real killer. But that's... impossible! Bacana! A mask? The person I stabbed was wearing a mask? Order! Order in the court! Ms. Sykes, did you say something? Yes. I remember. Ah! So it was the null mask that was on the wall. Athena, what is it? Ah! I remember a man with a mask. How could he? What did he do to my mother? My head. Ah! Miss Sykes, are you all right? Voices. The Black Cyclops. They're breaking. What, all of them? That's no mask. It's all coming back to me. Everything that happened the day my mother was murdered. It's a little bit hazy, but... they're gone. The Black Cyclops are finally gone. You didn't really stab your mother, did you? It's all right, Athena. Just tell us what you saw that day. I don't remember Black Cyclops from any of the other games. I thought they were always red. Yeah, I don't remember. I was drawing a picture. When I was done, I went to show it to my mom. I opened the door, and then... It's all right. I'm right here. You're safe, Athena. She was on the floor, by the workbench, with the katana sticking out of her. There was a handkerchief over her face, but I knew it was her by her clothes. And there was a man there. A man?
Hold it!
Quiet, Your Honor. Go on, Athena. He tried to attack me. In a panic, I grabbed the knife that was there, and... he dodged it first, so I only got his clothes, but I tried again, and he was terrible because he couldn't overpower an 11-year-old girl. And this time you got him, didn't you? I did. I remember it clearly now. The knife went into the back of his hand. Then he kicked me, and I passed out. When I came to, my mom wasn't moving. I had to do something. I had to fix her, I thought. So I asked Punko to move her to the operating table. Did Gav... I didn't think there were Cyclops in that one, because you didn't have a Magatama. Or did you? It's been a long time since I played Apollo Justice. But you may be right. So that's why she said that. Your Honor, as you can see, the defendant has just given us critical new testimony. A man was there before Ms. Sykes arrived, a man who covered the victim's face and put on the victim's jacket. This man is the real culprit. So I've been saying Aura this whole time. Maybe it wasn't Aura. Who else do we suspect? Could have been Clay Terran. We never found out who killed him. It could turn out Aura suspected that it was him. So she killed him. She did the bombing and killed him as revenge. And now she's like, okay, well, I'm going to admit to it, but I'm going to hold everyone hostage because I need everybody to know that he really did it before I confess and say, yes, I admit to killing him out of revenge. That's my new theory. No, because Clay Tarrant's not going to turn out to be a bad guy. That's silly. He's such good friends with Apollo. He's not going to kill her mother. Miss Sykes, do you have any idea who this man was? No, I'm afraid I don't. A few moments ago, Miss Sykes mentioned a mask. Athena, can you tell us anything about that? Yes, the mask. It was my mom's Japanese theater mask. I think it was the one hanging on the wall of the lab. This mask hanging here on the wall. It was kind of spooky, that mask. My mom used to tell me that a null mask even has the power to turn an ordinary human being into a phantom. Ghost? Okay, you looked it up. Okay, Gavin. Gavin also had black Cyclops at one point. I do not recall that. Interesting. Yeah. This I knew that I wasn't going to finish it today. Just was not going to happen. The final case would not just wrap up in one stream. It would seem that a new suspect has emerged, and that means that all suspicion against Miss Sykes has... You see, this is precisely why I can't trust the court system. Athena Sykes is the murderer. I won't accept any other verdict. Ms. Blackwell? This is not good. A new suspect? Where's the proof this person ever existed? Who says it wasn't all just a dream in the little princess's groggy little head? Ugh. She's right. We don't have any hard evidence of the masked man's existence. Thank you, Mr. Wright. I'll never be able to repay you for all you've done. But I'm fine now. Because I can say with certainty that I didn't kill my own mother. Athena, I'm so glad for you. More and more memories are coming back now. I'm like a real Phoenix Wright witness now. More and more memories are coming back. Allow me to redo my testimony. I'd like to say one thing if I could. Ponko came to the robotics lab at about 2 p.m. to recharge. Yeah, Serp is going to Japan. I went to the robotics lab just as I was about to charge up. Athena came in and hugged Mommy Mattis, and then Mommy Mattis fell down. After that, I was recharging, so I don't know anything. I see where you're going with this. If Mommy Mattis was really the killer in disguise, right, then he must have come to the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Do I have anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came to the lab before 2 p.m.? Why would 2 be... Okay, let's just look for things that have a time on them. There's a time. There's the time of death. Shoot, I don't have an answer to this. Yes, it is Lady Robot. How do we... What is there? Katana... Mommy made his ready for killing this guy. He must have come to the robotics lab before 2 p.m. Do I have anything here in the evidence that can help me find this person who came? Can we take this tape and rewind it? Corridor to the crime scene. Nobody... Take that! Okay, alright. This is Prosecutor Blackwell leaving the scene after the incident around 3 p.m. What I'm wondering is, does the video show anyone else passing by there before then? I don't see anything in the investigation report. It looks like they didn't check. How stupid. So no, there was no time somewhere that I missed. I did absolutely perfect. Kaihan is going to Athens with her god-grandparents for this fall for 2 weeks. Gladly on one of them, her school is out. Too poor to take her, so I'm glad there are other people who do. Athens, huh? Athens, Europe. They speak European there. So if we rewind the footage and go back to around 2 p.m., but we'll need a VCR for that, we should be able to see the true culprit leaving the scene. Very well then, let's take a look. There, please stop it right there. Then zoom and enhance. It's just like you said, there is a man leaving the scene of the crime. Miss Sykes, do you remember this person? That's him, I'm sure of it. He's wearing my mother's jacket. I did. But what I really wanted to see was her jacket. That jacket on display. That was Dr. Sykes? Can you see it? There's the slash I made with the utility knife that day. And I'm sure that knife is under that jacket somewhere. So then, everything Ms. Sykes said. Oh, for your own sake, the second page of the brochure, it did say times, but neither one was around 2 p.m. It was 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. So there were times, but nothing that said anything specific. They kind of threw us off by saying, like, what here would tell us who was there before 2 p.m. specifically. All right. Exactly, it proves that Miss Sykes' memory was correct. Dr. Sykes' killer arrived at the robotic lab before 2 p.m., and somehow the police investigating this murder didn't check the tape to notice that a man with a bandaged, bloody hand was running from the crime scene an hour before it happened. What? Wait, why would... I went past to the second page? There's nothing on here with a time. I ain't no dolt. I can stay here for as long as you want. Let's go to Jupiter. That's not a time. 21st century? Are you gonna claim that that's the time? Really now? Really now? Oh, you saw the 21st century, I see. He killed her and hid his face with a handkerchief. Then he disguised himself with Dr. Sykes' jacket and mask that were there in the lab. The culprit probably knew beforehand that Ponko charged up at 2 p.m. every day. So he waited for Ponko to come to the lab for her regular recharge. By leaving Dr. Sykes' jacket on, the culprit tricked Ponko into thinking he was Dr. Sykes, thereby making it look like she was alive up to that point in time, all to disguise the real time of death. It's a nice theory, Mr. Wright, but I'm afraid that it's just not possible. What? Why not? The victim's jacket is clearly visible right there in this video. And that right there is precisely the problem. The ID tag on the jacket at the scene confirms beyond doubt that it belonged to the victim. If the person who left the lab truly was wearing the victim's jacket, Then how could it possibly have wound up back at the crime scene? That is a good question. What's going on? This doesn't make sense. If the culprit was wearing the jacket, how did it get back to the lab? Wait, is the defendant Blackwell? Did he bring it back? Possible, right? Do we have a picture of him wearing a jacket? No, it's him wearing some weeb shit. That doesn't count. Would there be a reason for the killer to bring it back? Well, the victim is dead, so it wasn't them. Either the killer brought it back or the defendant, which could be, I guess, Blackwell. We don't know Blackwell's real reason for going to the lab. He said, "Oh, I went there because I was going to kill her." The killer couldn't have brought it back or else they would be caught on tape again. It had to be defendant. No, it's still glowing. Yeah, I meant Blackwell, not her. Damn it. Miss Sykes brought the jacket back to her. I see, so you're saying Miss Sykes is an accomplice then?
Objection!
I'll believe in Miss Sykes' complete innocence to the bitter end. But the way things are going, it might very well be a bitter end for the both of you. Take that. Gag. Come on. The killer, I guess, brought it back. The killer used the jacket as a disguise to make his escape. But in order to conceal that fact, he had to get the jacket back to the crime scene. So the culprit simply returned to the robotics lab later and planted it there. Contradiction resolved. Except that it would have been impossible. The only people who came to the robotics were, yes, exactly, Prosecutor Blackwell and the people who reported the body. They claimed that the jacket was there when they arrived. So, when do you propose this mysterious man of yours had a chance to return the jacket? A puzzling question indeed. When did the culprit have the chance to bring the jacket back? The only time the culprit could have returned the jacket was when the body was found. Mr. Wright, do you realize the implication of that argument? I do. Most people, when they come across a murder, focus their attention on the body. The culprit could have taken advantage of that split second to plant the jacket. In other words, the true culprit of this case, the man known as the Phantom, was one of the first people to discover the body. I would never have thought of that. I thought of something that was an even better plan. But it was not the truth. Alright, order in the court. What is the meaning of this, Prosecutor Edgeworth? The body was discovered and reported by a group of 3 people. And then the body discovery announcement played. Dun, 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 dun. They were there to collect the space probe's capsule in preparation for the HAT-1 launch. One of those people had a special bag to transport the capsule in. Oh, you mean the shock-resistant bag? Correct. I suppose that if the jacket was in that bag, it could have been returned to the scene of the crime without anyone noticing. I'll see to it that you get the reports on those 3 people. You will? We should also check the facial recognition database for that robot. If this person felt the need to hide his face with the theater mask, it might mean that his facial data was once registered. Prosecutor Edgeworth, does this mean? I have to admit, I believe Ms. Sykes' memories to be credible. You win, Wright. Not that this was ever an official trial anyway. Do my ears deceive me? Prosecutor Edgeworth, are you actually conceding? Is it true, boss? Does this mean I can't believe it. It's over. I won. I proved that both Athena and Prosecutor Blackwell are innocent. Your Honor, I see no need to further prolong this trial. Hold on, Mr. Wright. Have you forgotten who's in charge of this trial? That's right. I'm the one who's supposed to say, I see no need to further prolong... Not you either, Your Honor. Now, silence. The little princess who was truly beloved by Metis, and who repaid that love with death. All these years, hating Athena was the only thing that's kept me going. But what do I do now? Can anybody tell me? How am I supposed to go on? Ms. Blackwell.
How unlike you, Aura. Metis was deeply passionate about her work, and she chose you as her partner. Isn't that...
Shut up, Simon. You know exactly how I felt about her. Her respect as a co-worker wasn't all that I wanted.
Then what did you want from her?
Did you really just go there, Your Honor?
Aura, there is something I've wanted to say if you will lend me an ear. I have in my possession a lead on who Metis' murder is.
You do?
Right, Dono. You asked me about the identity of the Phantom 7 years past.
That's right. The Phantom, the person Blackwell has been looking for, even from behind bars.
7 years ago, somebody hatched a plan to sabotage the Hat 1 rocket.
Oh, yeah. That the robot is Aura Blackwell broadcasting from the Space Center where she's holding a bunch of people hostage with aggressive robots. That's the whole reason this trial is going on, is she said, I will kill the hostages unless you set up a trial and retry Simon Blackwell and find him innocent. Or no, try Athena Sykes for her mother's murder and find her guilty. So we're doing this to save the hostages. The spy.
But he was no ordinary spy. We knew naught about him.
Not? This guy thinks he's in Final Fantasy XIV.
We knew naught about him, his background, appearance. We came to refer to him as the Phantom. At the time, I was working with the police to hunt him down. And then one day, a miracle happened. A miracle occurred, and I obtained a lead on him.
Oh, how exciting. What was the lead?
A recording of the Phantom's voice, but the quality was too poor for proper voice analysis. Yet I had hope. Aura's co-worker was a scientist who could analyze human emotions. So I asked her to evaluate the recording using analytical psychology.
And that scientist was Dr. Sykes.
Yes, a spy's greatest fear is to have his true identity discovered.
In addition to Hat 1, Dr. Sykes' results in the recording were surely among his targets.
But his search of the Space Center bore no fruit, so he must have started to panic.
Yep. Oh yeah, that implication actually was... They sort of hinted at it a little earlier, and I wasn't sure if that's where they were going or not. But now it does seem like they're implying that she was in love with Dr. Metis. And what is this music? This doesn't sound anything like Phoenix Wright music. This doesn't sound anything at all like Phoenix Wright music. It's weird. couldn't find them, but where could they have been?
Who is to say?
Wow, I bet he's never let that out of his sight all these years. How in the world did you smuggle them into prison?
Oh, I have my ways. What's more, my partner is especially talented at that sort of thing. I worked to lure the Phantom in by spreading rumors through the underworld. I was even granted permission to prosecute cases to attract the Phantom's attention. Just try to retrieve your identity, you bloody butcher, became my taunt.
And what about the results Dr. Sykes drew up for you? Was there any useful information?
Here, you can see for yourself, but take good care of it. It's all I have left of my mentor.
I will. Better hold on to this real tight. The subject's emotions rarely fluctuate, and he doesn't experience feelings like normal people do. Sounds like a horoscope. Psychological profile, classified. Emotional output of this voice extremely weak compared to typical voices. Subject deemed to have unique psychological makeup with almost no emotional fluctuation.
I can't do it if you're watching.
Where?
If you just turn around.
It's Frump. Hello.
Right. Can't do it if you're leering at me. It's creepy.
Could be. I was thinking more along the lines of the bad guy from Psycho Pass, which, if you haven't watched it, is a pretty good show. It was like one letter too long. My 24-hour stream, I certainly did not. I have to go to work tonight. We will actually be ending in like 5 minutes. Like, as soon as we get to a good stopping point, I gotta go. But no, in Psycho Pass is an entire anime built around this premise that you can read people's psychological profile just through a brain scan, and they go, oh, well, just anybody who has a criminal disposition, we'll just lock them up ahead of time. And the villain is somebody who, it turns out, has a unique psychological profile where it never looks like they are engaging in deviant thoughts or behavior, even while they're in the middle of, like, horrifically killing people.
A spy who experiences no emotions, not sadness, nor anger, and naturally no fear. He is the very definition of a phantom, a monster with no heart, don't you see? This creature is the rot that destroyed our lives and set what ails us all into motion.
The Phantom, indeed, a fitting name for the one who has brought darkness to our world. Yeah, I started watching it. I expected it to be, like, really trite. Like, the idea was, oh, okay. And in the end, they're going to find out, oh, no, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't have a society where we read people's minds. The way that people do it in 2015 is actually better. But I thought they did actually a really good job of going, here's all of these different outlooks on the world, and here are the pros and cons of each of them, and none of them are really truly right or wrong. I was much more impressed by it than I thought I would be. It seems a faint image of this man has started to take shape. Based on what we have learned, I'd like all of you to conduct further investigation. That's what I like to hear. Give me the save point. This is not a formal trial, but I do want to follow protocol. If I may, I'd like to hand down my verdicts and bring these proceedings to an end. Whatever. Do what you want. You'll hear no objections from me. Yes, please, Your Honor. It's over. It's finally over. Very well. In that case, Prosecutor Blackwell, could you please take the stand? I'm already at the stand. As a result of this trial, your innocence has been proven. The verdict handed down 7 years ago is hereby overturned. And now the defendant of the current trial, Ms. Athena Sykes. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, thank you. Thank you for everything. Athena, you're more than welcome. If everyone is ready, I will now give my verdict. Here comes Apollo. Dun, dun. You. Exactly. Apollo? What is the meaning of this? Congratulations, Mr. Wright and Prosecutor Edgeworth. You uncovered the truth from 7 years ago, and you saved Prosecutor Blackwell. However, I can't allow this trial to end just yet. Why, Apollo? Why would you do this to us? Because it's 9:01 p.m. and time for Hitan to go eat. All right. Professecutor. Yes, they professecute people. There's this film festival in town at the end of the month. I need to sell Kion to a circus or something. Too many films I want to see when she's at home. Some of them play when she's at school. There's that. Some you really want to see, but I can't if you're to take care of your spawn. It is definitely hard to have free time of any kind when you have a family. All right, so that's it for tonight. The plan was originally that I was going to also stream this on Saturday to make sure that we got all the way through it, but I'm pretty confident that just playing it the normal days, Tuesday and Thursday of next week, that we will finish on time. So that means that Saturday is going to be Steven's Sausage Roll, the puzzle game, which we started 2 weeks ago, and I did super, super good up until the last half hour or so. So I'm looking forward to seeing just how dramatically worse I do now that I'm past what I now realize is the easy part of the game. Frump, you wouldn't believe how good I did. I beat like 30 puzzles in the first 2 hours. That's an exaggeration. But I did get a lot of puzzles done. And I'm sure that now the rest of the game will not be that easy. Serp, have a great vacation. Enjoy Japan. Enjoy it for the both of us.